Cheryl, Keith Freeman is facing a federal charge, but he is not, we're told, by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago in federal custody tonight. But people here at Dalton Village Hall say they haven't seen him either since word of that indictment dropped just a few hours ago.
Top aide to a controversial South suburban politician's been fired as federal investigators focus in on his boss.
WGN Investigates has confirmed Tiffany Henyard, senior advisor in Thornton Township, is out of a job.
The U.S. attorney accuses Freeman of concealing assets and incomes from his creditors.
Several high-level officials in South suburban Dalton facing a rush of lawsuits and investigations. Federal prosecutors accuse Keith Freeman of making false statements in his bankruptcy petition.
Tiffany Henyard once had a lot of people backing her up, but now it seems like everybody has turned against her. She's hiring new lackeys to fill up the vacancies, but it's hard to take them seriously when all her previous employees are coming forward to talk about her corrupt ways. Keith Freeman is one of them. So how did he go from being Tiffany's supporter to spilling all the beans to the FBI?
Now, Keith Freeman, he's been in and out of trouble since he was a young person. He was charged for theft in 2000. He was charged with a felony in Iowa when he turned 27. This was back in 2005. Theft in the second degree. Oh, Keith is a busybody. He has a long rap sheet. He never cleared up his charges because back in 2011, he was in Palm Beach, Florida, where they extradited him back to Iowa. They said out-of-state fugitive. Fugitive from justice. That's your boy, Keith Freeman. Because we all know Tiffany Henyard made a big fuss about not giving background checks. And this is one of the reasons why she didn't want to give a background check. Because anybody that works for municipal department or the city can have felonies. And I'm pretty sure they can't have theft.
Keith Freeman, the village administrator for Dalton, Illinois, was indicted on federal bankruptcy fraud charges. The allegations against him revolve around falsifying his income and assets in a bankruptcy filing he made earlier this year.
A high-ranking administrator for both Dalton and Thornton Township is charged with fraud connected to an alleged bankruptcy scheme.
The village also completed negotiations with the police patrol, police lieutenants, and the sergeants.
Right here you see Keith Freeman, who sits next to embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, discussing finances at a recent village board meeting. The U.S. attorney accuses Freeman of concealing assets and incomes from his creditors. He faces up to 5 years in prison if convicted. We reached out to Freeman and various Dalton officials, but have not yet heard back.
Freeman, who also serves as the municipality manager for Thornton Township, was accused of significantly underreporting his income in his bankruptcy petition. On January 3rd, 2024, he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in Chicago. In his filings, he claimed his total income was much lower than it actually was.
Probably not so expensive apartment. You're collecting money from the village of Dalton, and you're also collecting money from Thornton Township. So you're making about $150,000 a year. I'm pretty sure it's more. He's saying that he only works for Thornton Township. Your income, Thornton Township, municipality manager, gross income $5,800. Now, I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but from the payroll expenses of Village of Dalton payroll, Keith is on here. This was just in October. Keith Freeman, $3,800 every 2 weeks. And he claims that he only makes $5,800 from Thornton Township, employer's name, Thornton Township. Reason why he's trying to get away with it is because Keith is a 1099 employee. He's not paying no taxes off his income. No Social Security taxes, no medical taxes, no benefit taxes.
Freeman's troubles did not end there. He also failed to report a substantial claim against him by the village of Robbins, where he worked as village administrator from 2017 to 2021. The village of Robbins claimed that Freeman received around $90,396 more than he was authorized during his tenure. To make matters worse, Freeman allegedly provided the Chapter 7 trustee with a falsified copy of his 2022 income tax return, further misrepresenting his financial situation. He had not filed a tax return for that year, yet he submitted documents showing a much lower income than he actually received.
This is long coming. If a person can lie on their own financials, What do you think they're doing for the village? Nobody is untouchable. That's what I want to say. Nobody is untouchable. So if this is just the first domino to all of them falling, let it happen.
Dude, Jay Bradley, how you feeling?
Freeman is a key player in our reporting on Tiffany Henyard because of how many roles he plays for her. In addition to the Dalton and Township jobs, Freeman also, for a time, was the registered agent of the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation.
But there's no foundation in the state of Illinois moving like we moving and shaking, grooving like we doing. Right? That's right.
While Henyard's namesake charity claims to help cancer patients, WGN Investigates has reported it received most of its early money from taxpayers and has failed to file required paperwork showing how it spends its money.
How come you don't respond to my emails?
There you go. There you go. Huh? There you go. That's all you're getting from me. That's all you're getting from me today.
How come the charity hasn't filed its financial disclosures about how money was spent?
The indictment also details an incident on January 30th, 2024, where Freeman testified under oath at a creditors' meeting. During this testimony, he falsely stated that he was not employed by Dalton and had not received any payment from the village. These false representations were part of the scheme to conceal his true financial status from his creditors and the court.
But this indictment on one count of bankruptcy fraud says Freeman falsely stated he only worked for the township and made just over $99,000 last year. Prosecutors say he tried to hide his Dalton earnings via a pass-through company, which brought his income to $195,000 last year. They further allege the village of Robbins has a claim against Freeman for more than $90,000 he took without authorization from a previous post he held as village administrator there.
If convicted, he could have faced up to 5 years in federal prison for bankruptcy fraud. Federal officials, including the acting United States Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois and special agents from the FBI and IRS, have emphasized the seriousness of the charges. Dalton, on the other hand, is desperate to see him go.
Dalton trustees say Freeman's position at Village Hall has been a question for some time.
It was a lot of controversy on whether or not he was an employee or if he was contracted. Now they're saying that he didn't list this information.
And if he can't handle his own business, how in the world can he handle ours?
Freeman has been a close ally of embattled Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Longtime residents and frustrated leaders of Dalton say this federal fraud charge against Administrator Keith Freeman is a relief.
You know, we've been waiting for some justice to be served.
At the next board meeting, if he show up, I'll ask him to step down again because he's an embarrassment to this community.
Freeman pleaded not guilty to the charges and was released on a $4,500 unsecured bond with conditions that remain sealed.
Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's top aide, Keith Freeman, pleaded not guilty to federal bankruptcy charges today, as he is also named in another lawsuit against the village and its embattled mayor. Senior Administrator for Dalton and Thornton Township, Keith Freeman, pleading not guilty to bankruptcy fraud. His attorney speaking with reporters after the arraignment.
I think that many practitioners in this building would be surprised to see this level of attention and press paid to a bankruptcy indictment. We've had a couple of questions directed to me about whether or not this indictment means that the government is effectively trying to squeeze Mr. Freeman into cooperation. And I think that question is a question better put to the government. And the record will show overall that Mr. Freeman for many, many years has been a trusted public steward.
Despite his plea, Freeman voluntarily waived the discharge of his debts in his bankruptcy case, which means he will still be liable for the debts listed in his bankruptcy filing. This move was part of a settlement with the bankruptcy trustee following the federal indictment. The fallout from Freeman's legal troubles has been significant, not just for him, but also for Dalton and Thornton Township's administrations.
Freeman's appearance in federal court comes just a day after he was sued alongside Mayor Henyard by a Dalton property owner who says he was unjustly denied a business license.
When Keith Freeman told me that he's going to give me all the permits and put me in a position where I start working on my property, about time when I met with him again, he told me, "Who are you and do I know you?"
Tyrone Isom tried to open a barber shop and then a pigmentation studio in this space, but he says the building inspector told him Henyard blocked the project.
She said initially Tiffany Henyard did not want nobody to get these properties because she wanted the land. So that was right there in a nutshell.
It is a mess down there, and you have a mayor who believes that, you know, she owns every piece of property in that town and can control everything that happens in that town.
Henyard's spokesperson hasn't responded to our request for comment on the lawsuit, but last month, Henyard once again complained that she is the victim of critics intent on tearing down the first black female mayor of Dalton.
His close association with Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who is also under scrutiny for her leadership, has added to the controversies surrounding both their tenures.
Good evening. There were many tense moments in tonight's meeting. At times, Supervisor Tiffany Henyard took on her fellow trustees when it came to money and expenses, even accusing some of them of spreading lies about her.
Please tell me how you're out of order. You're out of order. How do they operate, trustees? How do they operate?
There were countless interactions just like this, elevated voices and heated debates about spending and the lack of a new budget. Several of the trustees questioned much of the township's spending, while Henyard says she's cleaned its finances up.
Y'all thought that I was young, dumb, didn't know nothing, was gonna let y'all come and manipulate me. I didn't do any of that. So because I didn't do any of that, you guys started this whole smear campaign.
At one point in this 3-hour meeting, Supervisor Henyard demanded Finance Director Robert Hunt read through more than 100 line items that many trustees wanted to get rid of. For example, thousands of dollars to Amazon.
$169.99.
Thousands of dollars of cakes for community events.
102 Calumet Bakery.
And tens of thousands of dollars that were allegedly allocated for the one-day event, the Taste of Thornton Township.
We just had a couple events here in the past, month or so, that just extraordinary amount of money was spent unnecessarily.
As for upcoming events, the trustees voted to stop a few, including House Fest and Gospel Fest. Henyard accused the trustees of acting out of spite.
And right now, you guys are operating with hatred in your hearts. You're operating out of feelings. You're not operating with things that's going on, and I don't think that's fair to us. And I don't understand why it's a problem when we got a surplus in Thornton Township thanks to Supervisor Tiffany Henyard once again.
Tiffany Henyard, the embattled politician from the south suburbs, fired Keith Freeman, her top aide, amid growing legal troubles and federal scrutiny. Freeman, who served as Henyard's senior advisor in Thornton Township and as village administrator in Dalton, was dismissed from his position in Thornton Township. This came after repeated absences from work and misconduct, according to the township's HR department.
WGN Investigates has learned township administrators loyal to Henyard began demanding answers about Freeman's whereabouts during the workday. Records show he claimed to be on family medical leave but didn't fill out an application. And on July 9th, HR sent Freeman this letter firing him. It reads in part, "Due to the high-ranking position that you hold at the township, this type of misconduct cannot be tolerated. Your misconduct is a detriment to the smooth functioning of the township's operations."
We are public servants and not self-servants.
Freeman's departure comes as Henyard is facing a challenge for mayor and control. On Sunday, a slate of trustees who've called out her use of tax money for self-promotion, questionable contracts, a big security detail, travel, and her namesake cancer charity announced they're seeking to dethrone Henyard in next year's election.
We have been steadfast in our efforts to stop the gross mismanagement and abuse of power that people have seen in the village today.
Freeman's firing comes at a time when there is rampant speculation that federal prosecutors might be pressuring him to cooperate in their ongoing investigation into Henyard's administration. Freeman's legal issues include a recent indictment for bankruptcy fraud, where he allegedly made false statements to conceal his income and assets. This federal charge has further complicated his situation and has led to speculation about his potential cooperation with investigators.
What some saw as a play to push him to cooperate with the FBI's investigation into Henyard. Back then, trustees said they hoped it was the beginning of the end of Henyard's reign.
Well, that's what I want to say. Nobody is untouchable. So if this is just the first domino to all of them falling, let it happen.
But Henyard allowed Freeman to keep both jobs until now.
Henyard, who also holds the position of Dalton mayor, has been under intense scrutiny for her leadership and financial management. She has faced accusations of lavish spending of public funds on personal trips and retaliating against employees who speak out against her.
As a reporter, I know there are a million ways a politician could have answered that question.
Because remember, I got the tea with the receipts. Matter of fact, if you want the tea, get it from me.
Rather than responding to questions from reporters, Henyard makes videos pouncing on her opponents.
Larry the liar, stop it. You caught, poof, be gone, you caught.
And promising answers, but never quite explaining her spending, leadership style, and transparency. And that's evidence of the role personality plays in this story.
You the ones that's costing the village money. Okay. I don't have that call. All right. Okay. What was she supposed to do? You wanted her to expound? Don't drag out the meeting. I made a motion.
You see, Tiffany Henyard does not like to be challenged. She demonstrates this at almost every village board meeting when opposition trustees ask her for more information about village vendors and bills before they'll agree to sign off.
But I shouldn't have to sit up here and break all this down.
One notable incident involved a controversial trip to Las Vegas, which cost taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars. Following this trip, a Dalton resident publicly criticized Henyard, calling her the worst mayor in America.
Tonight in South Suburban Dalton, residents got the chance to address the controversy surrounding embattled Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Complaints include sexual harassment, retaliation, and discrimination, and a controversial trip to Las Vegas last May. NBC5's Regina Waldrop was at tonight's meeting in Dalton.
A concerned community seeking answers.
I know you're going to ask for an investigation. I'm hoping that means the administration will have nothing to do with it.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard was absent from this special Dalton Village Board meeting. She and a village trustee who is not named are at the center of an investigation by the Illinois Department of Human Rights. The probe is focused on what allegedly happened on an economic development trip to Las Vegas last May. Henyard's former assistant who filed this complaint claims she was sexually assaulted by an unnamed Dalton trustee on that trip. We're not naming the woman because NBC5 does not name people who possibly were a victim of a sexual assault.
The firing of Freeman was seen as a significant development, given his close ties to Henyard and his involvement in her administration. While he remains on the payroll in Dalton, his dismissal from Thornton Township marked a clear move to distance Henyard from the controversies surrounding Freeman. Freeman's legal challenges and the speculation about his cooperation with federal authorities add another layer of complexity to the ongoing investigation into Henyard's administration.
Also tonight, more drama in Dalton. Credit card transactions amounting to thousands of dollars without explanation and millions more owed to vendors.
A bombshell report highlights just how much financial trouble the village of Dalton is really in. Our Casey Cronus is live tonight with details. Casey.
Don and Scott, community members' jaws dropped during tonight's presentation. The report was put together by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was hired by village trustees in April as an independent investigator. They sought her out to get to the bottom of Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's alleged misuse of village funds. Of the revelations made tonight, we are learning that as of May 31st of this year, the village's general fund, which is used to pay the majority of village expenses, is $3.65 million in deficit.
With multiple lawsuits and federal scrutiny, the political future of Tiffany Henyard looks increasingly uncertain as she navigates these turbulent times. Will Henyard finally face the music, or will residents suffer even more? Let's wait and see. That's it for now. Don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments below. For more updates, hit the bell icon.